Is this live? Are we live?
Yeah,
live.
basically.
This is like the equivalent
We're
of
live,
dead air.
but
It's like Hamid dictating what he's typing right now. Okay.
Literally.
So here we are live.
we
I am
can-
now typing that we're live, and I'm now tweeting it. Here's
My hope is that we can edit this part out, but I have no idea. I've never done
You
this
can't edit
before.
live?
Well, no, I mean it's live, but nobody was watching. So now the hope is
okay,
that now
okay.
the world is going to be watching.
Yeah.
Welcome to the AZ Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Hamid Chojai, a tech enthusiast and entrepreneur. Recently, my wife and I sold our software companies and we're investing $10 million in Arizona's tech ecosystem. As a way to know what's happening in Arizona, every week I get to sit down with some exceptionally talented people who are doing some cool shit. All right, let's go. Bob is invisible on social media. If he retweeted it, like,
Yeah.
who would see that tweet?
My mom, sister.
That's impressive, though. My parents would not.
Yeah,
see
exactly. I was going to say that's pretty good. I can't even get my family. Actually, several family members are starting to watch the podcast, and now they're starting to comment and tell me how it should be done, which is super interesting.
Of course. My mom is all over Facebook.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she doesn't really get the concept though, like that
what
other
does she
people
do?
can see what you write.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite get that. But,
So does she like write about what she's thinking, or what does she do?
well, if another family member says anything, she always has some sort of personal comment about it.
Oh.
And every time I read it, I'm like, oh God.
Like bring some like past thing
I'm
into
like,
it?
this is where you text somebody or you call them. Like, you don't put it on Facebook. So she doesn't quite have that part down yet. It's very entertaining.
All right. So, Adrian, you're gonna be our voice in the cloud.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So we have done specific episodes with both Bob La Loggia and Mike Roberts. You guys can go look them up if you want to learn about them. This episode is going to be more just shooting the shit, as I pinged you guys and I was like, hey, do you guys want to come and chat about whatever? So what do you guys want to talk about?
We got so many. Let's talk about Bob's guns.
Oh, God.
Bob's been
What do you
working
wanna
out a
know?
lot.
What do you
Yeah.
wanna know?
When did the workouts start?
When did I start working out?
No, I mean, like, it seems like, you got Popeye arms all of a sudden. What happened?
Steroids.
Yeah. What kind? Like, tell me, tell Mike. We want to be buffed.
Yeah.
No, it's all about consistency.
And
There's a lot. Go ahead.
Yeah. When did you become consistent?
I've always been consistent.
No.
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 No, not true.
Mike's calling your shit out.
I've become more consistent over probably the past 2 to 3 years, and I've also started lifting heavier weights. But there's a lot of theories about muscle gain and all of that, and it's not what it used to be. The theories aren't what they used to be.
Okay.
So it used to be, if you wanted to gain strength, you would do low reps, like 6 reps. If you wanted to build muscle and get some strength, you're 8 to 12 reps.
Okay.
If you do
Yeah, I remember
12
those.
Yeah,
Yeah, those-
25 reps, it's endurance,
Right.
or longer muscles, that sort of things. But they're coming out now saying, there's lots of different things that they're saying, but a lot of it is more talk about volume, like total volume, which aligns with consistency. The total number of reps, total number of sets that you do, the weight that you use, all of that now factors in. So I do a mixture of things. I do some, heavy weights, low reps. I do some crazy high reps with very low weights. A lot of kind of mixing it up with drop sets and supersets and things like that. So just
Do
a
you take
large
any
variety
supplements
of
too,
things.
or no?
No, other than protein powder, no.
Do you have a trainer?
I had a trainer for a number of years, but he moved to Canada. So I do not have a trainer.
So now you're just self-motivated.
I'm on my own.
Nice.
Yeah, I did go through a period where I did not have a lot of motivation, though. It was when I was building the business, and I was just working crazy hours. And, taking care of your health is really important, especially when you're trying to be mentally healthy and make good decisions and that sort of thing. And I just kind of fell away from it for a while. I was eating crappy food, and I wasn't working out. But I was, working till midnight every night and that sort of thing. But then I'm like, I can't keep doing this. Felt like crap. So then I kind of went back to getting into working out, hired a trainer.
Nice. So just protein powder. Which one do you take?
Nature's Best. It's a plant-based protein powder.
Do you find a difference when you take the protein powder versus when you don't, or?
I don't know.
Like
I should know this, right?
I mean, like it's weird because I've heard about various different supplements. I started taking this supplement called NMN, which is supposed to extend life and make your body be able to like recover. And there's this guy, Dr. David Sinclair, who has done a bunch of research on it. In lab mice, it sort of extends their life by 20-30%. And this supplement is fairly expensive. I mean, it's like $3 a gram roughly. But, he says he takes about a gram of it a day. And, it's about $100 a month. It's not bad, right? But I've been taking it, but I just can't tell a difference, right? Like I can't tell a before and after difference, whether or not it's doing anything. And that's true with like vitamins. Do you take vitamins, Mike?
I'm a simple person, so like I basically have like the chewable ones, and if I take the chewable ones,
the
gummies, they're delicious.
They are delicious.
The ones that you give to your kids.
Yeah, I steal the kids' gummies and eat them by the fistful, and so I don't know if that counts. It's basically like consuming candy.
Like I can't tell a difference between when I'm vitamin deficient and when I'm getting plenty of. Either. It's weird. So
yeah, the protein powder thing. Yeah, so it's basically trying to get a sufficient amount of protein in your body every day. Okay. So whether it comes from protein powder or other sources, that's really the goal. But with protein powder, you can do it in a way that you're not taking in so many calories. So that's really the reason that I use protein powder.
All right, so you guys, I want to talk about entrepreneurs in particular. You guys are both entrepreneurs and starting a company. You and I, Bob, have sold our company. Mike, you're still full speed ahead. Are you planning on selling SpyFu anytime soon, or?
The goal was always to sell the company, but I'm like not in a hurry. My actual kind of goal is to make selling irrelevant to me financially. I just kind of put it off. Just keep putting it off.
Yeah.
I still enjoy it, and so I feel like it's kind of like
it's not important anymore.
I don't want to say it's not important, but the exit is. I never built the company. I never really wanted to build the company to sell. Right. I always wanted to build it to be where I'd want to work forever, right? Build the ideal place for for myself, for my employees, for just a kind of a mini utopia, if you will. Not in a really super creepy way. I just wanted to build something that I'm proud of. And so, when people call me and they're like, I want to buy the company from you, I'm like, nah, I'm good. Or like, it's just never it's never the right price or the right, maybe at some point I feel like one day it'll be like the right time to sell, and then I will. But as is, I'm cool.
So has it evolved in any ways that you don't like? Because I know, having fun and being challenged, that's always going to be a big part of it. But are there parts now, since you've been doing it for a while, that you don't like?
There's opportunity cost, right? So the challenge of being, sort of focused is not doing good ideas, right? Right. I constantly am an idea guy. Actually, sort of I've invented many things, and there's plenty of things that I would like to do, but I don't, because if I did, then I'd be sacrificing kind of the existing thing. I can't really execute on all the good things. So that's kind of maybe the I would like to be like doing nothing so that then I could do something. If that makes sense.
Yeah, makes complete sense.
That's exactly what Bob is doing right now, right? Like he's on the verge of doing nothing.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that, or is that
so.
Off limits?
Yeah, I think we can talk about it.
So you've sold AppointmentPlus, and you're on the verge of sort of like basically being unemployed. Is that a little scary at the same time? I know you like financially you're fine, but like is it scary to find yourself possibly not doing anything, which is why you were talking about looking for the next thing that you want to do?
It's a whole mix of feelings. The thing I complained to you about is I don't want to use money from savings or investments to pay my bills.
Right.
Like, I hate that thought.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to have some source of income. So then I'm like, do I get a job? Like, what do I do? And I got to talk to you about this whole Uber driving thing that I have going on. And I'm serious about it.
Wait, what?
Not what? What?
What do you mean you're serious about it? Uber driving thing?
Yeah, but not as like my source of income going
Oh,
forward.
like you're going
but
to
as-
put on a show or something?
No, I'm not going
Okay.
to put on a show.
I don't know.
Are you gonna like
where is this
like
going?
buy cars and lease them to Uber drivers?
No. Okay.
Like
so
what's the?
a passion that I have is behavioral psychology.
Okay.
So I thought, it can be expensive to set up tests just to see how humans behave in certain situations.
Right.
Well, if you're driving an Uber, you have a lab on 4 wheels immediately. You can try all sorts of different things to see, for example, how you get more tips.
Ah, I see what you're saying.
Like, for example, the rule of reciprocity. If you give something to somebody, they feel obligated to give you something back.
Right.
So if I'm an Uber driver and here comes the person, I get out of the car, I walk up to the person, and I put something in their hand. It could be anything. It could be like a notebook piece of paper with some encouraging words on it. Just something as simple as that. I
That would
press
be a little weird, though. Like, imagine
Yeah, I
if
know it'd be
you,
weird.
especially if you press that into like a female, like passenger's hand, or I mean, that would be
Yeah, so I put it in their hand. I've given them something.
Right.
Maybe it's a flower I give them. I don't know. Okay, I give them something. So now it's
Am I
a
going to have
test.
to bail you out of jail, Bob? What do you think about this test, Mike?
It seems interesting. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
the,
But, I mean, that's
the
one of
particular
100
The,
things.
the
Yeah,
premise,
yeah,
the
yeah,
premise
yeah.
of like doing behavioral, like just psychological tests.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
offering. Hey, I've got a charger. I've got I've got some water. You want some water? You want some water?
Right.
It's like I get
Yeah.
this almost certainly incrementally increases your likelihood of getting a tip if you offer people water.
Exactly. The way I'm dressed, could that make a difference? The music I play, maybe I'm playing an audio book that's a motivational book, or
Right.
something like that. And when they step into the car, they hear that, or maybe the topics I bring up with them to talk about. So there's all sorts of tone of voice. So there's all sorts of things you can play with. There's all these variables in this vehicle to see what would increase the amount of tips. Could I make $1,000 in one day in tips? Just something like that.
this is something you want to test personally, or are you
I'm thinking about it
Okay.
because I have such an interest in this area.
Have you seen OK Trends, OK Cupid's blog?
No.
Oh, you must read this. It is the best. It is the best
Really?
thing on this. Yeah, well, because the people that founded OK Cupid were actually just really into this type of stuff, and so they kept like all the stats on like what causes people to like click. I don't know how OK Cupid works, but like let's pretend it's like swipe right. Or
Okay.
whatever, right? Like I like you or whatever. And so they have all this stuff. Oh, some of it's like this racial matrix,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting, very interesting actually. But one of them is like what kind of picture? If you're looking off the camera and smiling, if you're holding a pet, if you're holding a drink, that's bad. That's not a good idea actually.
Yeah.
Pets work well for guys and not so much for women or something like this, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but they have, hundreds of articles that are some of the most fascinating things on behavioral psychology that I've ever seen, and it's also a passion of mine, So it's OK Trends. It's amazing.
So we need to do a competition. We each need to drive an Uber for 1 week and see who can make the most money in tips.
Oh, I'll win.
Okay. What makes you so confident about that?
Because
I'm
of the
just,
hair?
I'm just a friendly
That's
person.
so funny. That's the first thing I thought. I'm just a friendly person.
I don't know. I just I'm just competitive. I think I would win.
Okay, I think this is going to happen. Are you in?
No, I don't have a week of time to spare. I still own a goddamn company. You guys do
right.
this
I
competition.
forgot.
I'll just
Right.
place bets. We can exchange money via, crypto or whatever.
Who would you bet on
God.
between Bob and I?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know.
Yeah,
You
we both have
guys-
strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. It's a tough one.
That's funny.
I don't know. I'd have to hedge. I'd have to put some.
Yeah.
But if it were me, I would definitely win. So that's it.
That's funny. I feel like I wouldn't care enough, and I would probably lose. I'd bet on myself losing. I'm a competitive person, so like if I really tried, maybe I'd have a chance. But like generally speaking, I don't like people. Like I'm not a people
Humans?
person.
You don't really
Yeah,
like
like
humans?
humans in particular. Dogs are pretty good, but like
Yeah.
I'm not a people person. I'm like the person who at a party will be like mostly not talking to people. I don't know. What about you guys?
I feel like there's a trick to that. What you're talking about is an endurance game, right? And so it's a bit of a grind. And I don't know which of you guys have done like outbound sales or something, but it's just sort of like I feel like the reason that I feel like I would win is because I've done that type of thing. And it's just like the sort of smile before you dial, like random little tricks.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have the endurance for it, so I would win.
See, for me, it's like, if my passengers were like founders or entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
like people who I like talking with, that would potentially work, but that's not the
Not drunk
average
people.
Joe. Yeah. Which, not drunk, yeah, certainly not drunk people. Which is kind of funny. I actually wanted to talk to you guys about like founders in particular. There's like this special breed, and actually, is there a special breed, or can anybody be a founder? And that's something I wanted to talk to you guys about because it's sort of something that startups in general are becoming more of a popular thing for people to do, right? And what are your thoughts on can anyone do a startup? And
It's interesting you say that because as founders, we may think, if you find something that you're passionate about, like you really feel strongly about this idea and just dive in and do it, like you don't need any kind of external motivation, you just do it.
right.
But we've all come across people that say things like, I don't know how you do what you do. I could never do that. I could never take that kind of risk. So I don't know if that means they're not that kind of person or they haven't found something that they're that passionate about that they want to dive in and go for.
But like, is passion even that necessary, or is the passion like built afterwards? This is something that comes up quite a bit. Is that like, are you passionate about something that is not even created yet? How could you be? Like, were you passionate about AppointmentPlus before you created AppointmentPlus? You know what I mean? Like,
No.
I mean, and in a lot of companies, the initial or the thing that eventually becomes successful is not even what they start out as. So they pivot multiple times before they land on something that takes off. So, you can't say that they were super passionate about something that pivoted 3 times before it actually became something successful. So, like, what is it that you're smiling, Mike? What are you thinking as I'm saying this?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, in practice, everybody doesn't do it,
Right.
And feels like they can't. But like the amount of human suffering that we can endure, to be honest with you, I mean, it's not really suffering. Like we're basically like living in the land of like milk and honey. Realistically, historically, everything that our ancestors have done before us, every one of them did harder shit. Right? We're basically. Soft, very soft.
Like the best life 100 years ago was probably worse than like some of the like certainly worse than the top 80%.
Yeah, like the current UFC heavyweight champion like crossed the Sahara Desert like 7 times as a refugee trying to get to like Europe from Africa, and then like lived as a homeless person on the streets of Paris, and then became the world champion. And you can do it if you feel like, if you kind of like in your mind, if you just say, well, if I give up, then I've lost and I die. It's like if you treat it like it's like survival, like Minecraft style survival, like you must do it. You have to just put one foot in front of the other and like somehow like slowly increase your scale. Then everybody can do it, or else they would die, and people would die, right? If you had to become an entrepreneur or die, Some people would die, but most of them, like a lot more wouldn't. You know.
Okay. So your thinking is that it's because it's convenient not to be an entrepreneur, which is why
you
like
can get a
most
job.
people. Yeah.
And getting a job is a much more efficient way. Like, go become a dentist, and your happiness will be much more like consistently good. Like, and in a really
It's funny that you
powerful
picked
way.
dentistry in particular, because I thought they have the highest rate of depression.
I'm like
Like literally, I think that they have the highest.
No.
As a profession, I think dentistry might be the highest. No.
It's a clear path to happiness because
Dentistry in particular, or just having a consistent job?
Dentistry is an example that
Because I thought like Seattle is like the worst, like city from a depression standpoint, and then dentistry is the worst profession, and then the combination of a dentist in Seattle is practically a dead person walking.
Honestly, I don't think so, because you can make quite a bit of money. You can make quite a bit of money as a dentist, but you can also like create your own destiny.
Okay.
More so than other professions.
Some of my closest friends are dentists, by the way, so I apologize in advance.
I think that if I was going to prescribe a medical path, that dentistry might be a good path to continued happiness, because there's a book. I've read many books on happiness because you have to.
You have to.
Right?
You have to.
Yeah. Don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
You have to read more than one book on happiness.
Okay. This one sucked.
Yeah.
Why do you have to read more than one?
Well, you just have to. I think that if you are into like making your life better,
Okay.
which is kind of what we're here for, to like hack our lives and make them as good as we can.
Right.
If you can see on the horizon that money is solved-ish, right? Then you have to focus on happiness.
Okay.
It's kind of like the next level.
Well, okay, so I would have thought that the summary of any book about happiness is that it's a state of mind. So it's sort of like a decision. What do these books teach you that like?
Well, the dentist thing, right, is like what you want to. You can only experience so much happiness, particularly from money. Right, like winning the lottery is the clear example of like, okay, you got flooded with that like burst of happiness, and then you don't really. That's it. So it's better to get rich slow than it is to get rich quick. And dentistry is an example of a profession where you will get rich, and you're going to get rich slow.
Okay.
One tooth at a time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so then you can celebrate and experience that happiness at your first, $10,000 and then 20. So it's actually a really fulfilling life from like a money being maybe money doesn't create that much happiness. Doesn't create all. Money does create happiness. Let's not fuck that up.
But
it is true, but it is not like infinitely true. And so the key is to do it in small chunks instead of one big chunk.
Aren't there? Okay, so I remember reading a study a while back that was saying that money brings happiness up to something like $75,000 a year income, but then beyond that, once you have like sort of your basics and your sort of normal, iPad, computer, etc. needs met, then beyond that, the level of happiness that it brings you is like infinitesimally smaller and smaller.
Well, yeah, sure. There's return. You guys can decide. You've experienced more levels of happiness.
More levels of money.
I mean, Mike's hierarchy of needs, money.
I would contest. Of course, yeah. Like I think that there's suffering below a certain level for sure, right. And then and yeah, I mean, you definitely want to make more than $10.
Well, I mean, so you referenced us in terms of like I can attest to like more money. Does it mean more happiness? My happiness has not changed over the past 20 years, I would say, despite the fact that my financial income or financial well-being has, right? And what's the case for you, Bob? I'm curious.
Well, it's the same.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to, are you doing the things that you enjoy doing? Are you consistently doing the things that you enjoy doing? And oftentimes, those things don't take a lot of money. Now, if you get a lot of money,
do you even have to be doing the things that you consistently enjoy doing all the time? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is that the key to happiness? Let's talk about this, actually.
Well, actually, I think that is a big key to happiness. I know you said it's a mindset.
Right.
But if you're consistently not able to do the things that you enjoy doing, I think that would impact you. I think you would be not as happy. So if you enjoyed being around friends, if you enjoyed riding your bike, if you enjoyed reading about fashion, like I do.
Yeah, I can tell. That you like to read about it only. That's where it stops.
Exactly. Stop. I think you'd feel it. I think if you couldn't do those things because of whatever reason, I think it would impact your happiness. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, but like, isn't a lot of normal life doing things that you don't necessarily enjoy doing? But I mean, I do all kinds of, I take out the trash, there's like all kinds of chores, right, that I do that I...
He's listing like his chores. I don't know, I take out the trash, so I close the door after myself.
Yeah, exactly. Like none of these things. But no, I'm serious.
Occasionally I work in the garden. It's terrible.
Don't say that to Lana. It's a good thing she doesn't listen to the podcast. I'm safe. But no, seriously, like what brings you happiness, Mike? Like you've read multiple books. You're probably the most read now on happiness books based on what you just said.
Well, it's an interesting thing because as you're talking about it, there are things where when you're able to. So yeah, I feel like I'm at this point where I actually probably am capable of doing what I want to do whenever I want to do it.
Yeah.
And so I choose
skateboarded here, for God's sake. So I would say so.
And yet I spend my time like working on data in the cloud, but I enjoy it. But there is a bit of a cognitive dissonance or something like that. Hopefully, where you're like, sometimes you feel like imagine you were like a religious person and suddenly you were able to do anything you wanted to do with your time. You might feel guilty for not like just constantly going to your church or synagogue or whatever. So sometimes I feel like, oh well, maybe I should be spending more time with my family or something like that.
Okay.
So I think that whereas if you don't have that option, you can just be like, well, I have to go to work because I don't know, there's a dead body and I'm a cop or whatever.
Right.
I have to. I don't have a choice.
I'm not even sure how to respond to that, but how does this like affect your happiness level, right? Like,
oh no,
do you consider yourself a happy person?
That's just something that you sometimes have to struggle with. So you can have like this curve, where you have. Where your happiness doesn't actually increase. I think having these options to do the things that you want to do does give you the opportunity to be happier, but sometimes we get caught in guilt. Guilt is also a sort of, there's a survivor's guilt, if you will, of actually making it. So you're like, you feel like you don't want to become a person that you used to loathe. And so there's all kinds of reasons why having more options and being able to do the things that you want to spend your time doing causes you to not necessarily be more happy, but that's baggage that you just kind of have to deal with, and ultimately you can achieve enlightenment.
Yes. We're going to get to enlightenment in this conversation. I have a question for you. So do you think you're happier if you're a more even-keeled person, or if you're the kind of person that experiences all the emotions of life, the highs, the lows, and everything in between?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I think I probably don't have huge highs or huge lows.
Yeah.
But that is definitely interesting question. I feel like it can borderline dangerous if it's too extreme high and too extreme low, right? Because the too extreme low could be depression, and that's when people oftentimes do something irreversible, right? Like, but what is your view on that?
Well, does it require the difficult times to truly understand happiness, to truly be happy? Do you have to go through some difficult times? Do you have something to compare it to?
Yeah, that's a great question. What do
you know
think,
the whole
Mike?
smile before you dial thing that I was talking about? Like, to some degree, I think that what we should do is, you can leverage your sort of even-keeledness of like being like, well, sometimes you lose. And sometimes people die, and sometimes your launch fails and all that stuff, and you're like, it is what it is. Life will go on. And then when something is good, then you just celebrate it. You just celebrate it crazy. You just be like, yeah, tell everyone, and just So you have high highs, and not so low lows. Yeah. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I had to kind of teach myself to be okay with and celebrate the highs, because I used to try to be that even-keeled person, and I realized that when good things would happen, I wouldn't feel the joy of it. I had to change myself to be able to truly step into it and be like, okay, it's okay to step back and just let myself feel it.
Yeah,
because I didn't have that for a very long time.
Yeah, sometimes we're troubleshooting something at my work, and you don't necessarily know whether or not you've come to the root cause and completely solved it. It's like a systems thing or whatever. And I'm just like, and so you don't really want to prematurely celebrate, because then you look stupid when you didn't. So like just like one little hack that we did is like, well, fuck it, let's just prematurely celebrate. Like maybe it's not going to be good, but like at least we celebrated.
Balloons.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we won! Nice, high five, everyone. Maybe we didn't, but let's high five anyway. It's
Champagne.
fine. What's the worst case scenario? Yeah, have a happy hour, even though maybe it's not going to work out okay.
It's funny because I think I'm more of that personality type where I don't celebrate the wins or like the. I'm more of like, let's, like it's not a big deal. Just, we sold the company, but like I don't want to make a big deal about it, because like I don't know, I want to celebrate a little bit, but like not too much.
There's certain things that it's hard to celebrate because it's hard to celebrate selling a company, because who do you celebrate with? You have to celebrate with the people that you're close with, and you can be like, check it out, it's $1 billion. Let's throw it in a pool. Right? You can't just do that with everyone.
But even like let's take company out of it. But like I guess what would be a good example of something that you'd want to celebrate? Bob, bring the mic a little closer to your mouth. Just like what would be a good example of besides the sort of releases for a software company, an obvious one.
Yesterday I finished writing an algorithm that took me 3-4 weeks to do.
Okay.
Wow.
And so I didn't really celebrate it, but I just did just now.
Champagne.
I did, actually. I walked into the other room and I was like, I finished! And my wife was like, you finished? And I was like, yes! And she was like, awesome.
Now throw out the garbage.
Yeah.
Now take out the garbage.
So it doesn't have to be a celebration with everybody else. You can just celebrate it with yourself and literally, put your hands over your head, right? Like, it's victory.
Well, this kind of goes back to the entrepreneur thing. Are entrepreneurs wired such that they just have to keep going? In other words, you reach some milestone, okay, whatever. What's the next milestone? And what's the next one? And what's the next one?
Yeah.
You sell the company, okay, what's the next company I'm going to start? Like, is that the way that they're wired?
I think it's 50-50. I think that like half of it is that we're, we have a certain amount of perseverance and like willingness to, assemble the IKEA furniture without reading the instructions, if you will. Right?
Oh,
as a mental discipline, right? Because fuck that, I'm never reading. I'm never going to read instructions.
Do that. That seems so
You read
wrong.
the instructions?
Yeah.
I look at the picture and assemble it.
Yeah.
Because I'm a man.
I don't know if I should feel offended or if all women should feel offended by that comment.
Oh yeah, I apologize, all women and all men. I didn't mean to offend everyone. That's just how I behave, and my wife is consistently offended as well when I just don't look at the instructions. She's like, hold on, let me look at the directions.
For directions.
Can I see some of the pictures of this furniture you put together?
It's always good, but it always has a couple of missing pieces.
Remind me not to sit down in your furniture.
So anyway, like
double check, does the seat work?
I think it's like half the perseverance and half the just like not needing permission, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And then, but the other part, I think, I don't know that that's baked into us, right? I think, some of it's baked in, whatever. But then the other part is that you have like some kind of a role model or mentor or an example. It doesn't have to be any of those things. It's an example in your life, right? I think that like often that's why you have entrepreneurial families. It's like, oh, it doesn't even have to be,
like your parents were entrepreneurs, so you kind of like picked up that mentality.
Entrepreneur or entrepreneurial, they've got a side hustle or whatever. Like realistically, my dad's dad was a fishmonger. My dad was like a real estate construction guy, and I'm a software dude. There's not like really, and it doesn't have to be a ridiculous amount of success there. But I think that there's kind of like.
Do you guys feel like money is a huge motivator to like be an entrepreneur and be successful and make shit happen? Like a lot of entrepreneurs like didn't have a choice. They lost their job, or like they were sort of at the. What's interesting is when there's like mass economic issues, like the 2008 economic crisis or 2000.com bust. A lot of like interesting companies actually start during those time frames when people lose their jobs. There's like huge unemployment, and people don't have another choice.
I think it's an evolution. I think a lot of people start a business because they want to make a lot of money. They see there's a problem, I can solve it, I can make a lot of money. But I think what happens over time, maybe not to everybody, I know what happened to me though, is you realize that the thing you've created is bigger than the money it is generating or is going to generate, including if you have employees. Because I remember this one time, it's probably 8 years into the business. And I was in my office and heard a couple employees talking outside my office about the TV show they had seen last night. And it just hit me that this business is not about me. It's actually about creating a great workplace for these people. And it's about, taking care of their careers and taking care of them as humans and their families and that sort of thing. And kind of this light bulb went off where I'm like, boy, it is not about money. It's about so much more than that. And that's just talking about the employees. That's not even considering the clients that are using the software,
right,
and their businesses and their lives and all of that. So I just feel like it evolves into something so much more than just money.
Yeah, it's a bit of something, a combination. I mean, I would be, if I didn't have what I have, I would, for sure go like door to door selling roofing contracts or something, like just grinding to just make a better living for myself and family or whatever. But the thrill of creating something and then bringing it and then having users use it is a whole nother level. Like, in fact, like I have like kind of like this innate sales skill, I think. I can sell things to people, and I never wanted to use that in my company at all, ever. I've like literally never like reached out, tried to like do anything sales driven, because I just like the idea of putting something, giving people something, and then having them be attracted to it rather than me making them, influencing them. And I also don't like to feed my pets myself because I feel like then I'd rather just them go to like a bowl and eat out of it. I don't want you to like me because
fat. I've seen them. They're really fat.
My wife feeds them. If it were my pet, I would just be like, here's a bowl. It's got a timer. Don't come to me because you want food from me, because that's a weird hack.
So wait. So like you're afraid that your pet might like you because you feed them?
I want their affection to me to be genuine, not because I feed them.
What kind of pets do you have?
I have a dog and a cat and a
hamster,
a turtle. But I don't feed them. It's not.
That
my
is
thing.
so funny.
Yeah, and so they don't go around.
I don't think I've ever heard that before. But
well, think about it. I mean, they like you mostly because you feed them. Like, hey, what's up?
Right.
Well, look at that empty bowl over there.
Right.
But no, does your dog like you just as much, or like can you tell?
Oh yeah. My dog. I'm like my dog's
favorite
alpha creature. Like he's.
So why do you think your dog likes you? If she does?
Pet him.
Because you pet them?
I don't know.
Because they're amazing freaking creatures,
yeah,
right?
They really are. Yeah.
The other day, like one of my dogs was outside and had been left outside for a couple of hours or whatever. Like, she just sat there patiently waiting. But when we let her in, she's just as excited as ever. Yeah. She's not like holding any grudges. You left me outside for 2 hours.
That's a good point.
What the hell?
That's a good point.
Like,
dogs are a little bit different.
amazing.
The cats basically like you because they could potentially like you just because of the food thing.
These conversations are coming full circle because if you want to be happy, look at a dog. Like what does a dog do? They
Zero
don't work.
ego. What?
They don't work. They don't have a job. See?
But dogs have zero ego, right? Like that's like there's nothing that lingers with dogs. They don't like hold any grudges. They
have guilt though, and lots of shame.
Guilt.
They're such a social animal.
Like if they made a mess in the house, they'll they have that.
Yeah.
Well, do you think?
I don't know how we got on this subject.
So dogs are they're purely emotional. They're very social, but they're purely emotional creatures.
Right.
And humans are also purely emotional, social creatures, except we have all these barriers that we put up. So and this is back to the whole: are we going to be even keeled in our lives? Or are we going to feel the experiences of life, the ups and downs? And I think dogs just naturally feel the ups and downs. It's the way they're wired. And that's why so many people are like, man, dogs got it figured out. They got the best life. Always happy to see me. I leave it outside for, was it 3 days or 3 hours?
3 hours.
3 hours, okay.
Yeah. 3 days.
It would bite you after 3 days.
No, I don't think they would. They would just be so excited. I mean, they're just, so excited all the time. Like, they are living in the moment. I think that's your point, is that, so going back to your question, what is your answer to that? Like, do you feel like you need to be celebrating having more highs and more lows potentially, or what are your thoughts?
No, I feel like I've gotten pretty good at that. Yeah.
You got a good balance.
If I'm sad, I let myself be sad. If someone else is sad, I allow them to be sad. I'm with them in their sadness. If they're happy, I'm with them in their happiness. If I'm happy, like some people actually feel guilty for being happy.
Yeah.
And sometimes they feel like they might jinx it if they celebrate or are happy about something. I don't have that. I had a little bit of that in the past. I don't have that anymore.
All right. So, sorry. So going back to the entrepreneur thing, lots of different types of entrepreneurs, lots of different reasons to be an entrepreneur. Like happiness factor, like has that played a role in you guys' lives?
That's a great question because like if you look back at the history of building your business, there were good times, there were bad times, there were horrible times, there were joyous times, right? It was all over the place. But when you look back, does it feel like it was a happy time in building the business? And I think for most entrepreneurs, they would be like, yeah, I was building something. It was pretty cool. It was very difficult at times. I lost sleep, at times. But overall, I really enjoyed the experience. And I also think
what about for their spouses?
That's a completely different. That's different. But one thing I feel that happens in a business that you don't hear much about is you kind of grow up as a person. I grew more as a human being during, running my business than I would have, I feel like, in any other profession. If I worked for someone else, I wouldn't have grown like this. Just dealing with adversity, dealing with personnel problems, dealing with clients. You kind of get all aspects of life in this kind of microcosm of your business. And just like we were laughing about earlier, the Uber thing, you have this lab on 4 wheels. You have this life lab that you have, and you can do it whatever you want with it. It's kind of this experiment for life, and it's yours. And I feel like that's something that entrepreneurs don't always realize until later on in their career, or maybe when it's over. And they look back and like, man, I really grew as a person during that period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that like business presents you with like a ridiculous amount of ethical dilemmas, right?
Yes.
You can just easily just go to the dark side, and so you wind up and so you have to kind of like, well, geez, I've seen this kind of like a temptation, if you will, before, and so you just like rapidly come to like what your core values are and that type of thing, and they sort of solidify in your head in ways that I don't necessarily think that you're presented with sort of ethics issues, and so you can kind of create patterns in the world and know who you are. It definitely, I mean, yeah, for sure. It's like there's no replacement in my view for sort of just making your way in the world, and that's what it's all about.
You know how they say that money just amplifies who you already are, the tendencies that you already have. I think it's the same thing in business. It amplifies your tendencies.
Sure.
So if you're a very ethical person, it's going to come out in the policies of that business.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a tendency to kind of bend the rules a little bit here and there, it's going to come out in the business and in the culture.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, the ethical issues is a really interesting one because that, like in business, you have people's credit cards if you're selling a product via credit card, and there's like all these things that, you know, like you're like, oh, interesting, price adjustments, you know, like subscription models, the way you allow someone to unsubscribe or cancel their subscription, you know, like
send me a fax. That's the only way.
Like the
gym, what you guys do? Yeah.
Gym memberships is a perfect example of like a subscription model that is designed not to be unsubscribable, right? Like you can subscribe any way you want. You can go there in person. You can do it over the phone. You can like do it on their website. But to unsubscribe, you have to like jump through hoops. You have to call an 800 number, wait on hold for a person. The person says, well, we don't, you know, our system is down right now. Like, can you like call us back tomorrow? You know, just literally, and that's just like the best ones. That's like LA Fitness does that. Literally, it has happened to me.
You can't cancel DirecTV. I mean, you can upgrade at DirecTV. This is, you know, huge company. You cannot cancel DirecTV without calling them. Yeah. And of course, their call center hours
are limited.
And
you
what's crazy,
wait on hold for
I suspect, but I don't know, but I suspect, you have to wait on hold. So they, you know, but I suspect that if you go and you try to cancel, right, online, I think that when you then call them, because they're like, you have to call, I think that they're out of service, or that, you know, like call center's down. Like this has happened to me more than once.
Yeah, so it's just too much of
a
coincidence.
You see what's going on? Yeah. It's like, oh, I just tried to cancel online, and then miraculously I call you, and like all the systems are busy. You know, call the
wait times are ridiculous.
That's like some incremental. Okay, so I got a topic. Okay, because I never really want to call anybody out on this, and you know, because you know, whatever. You know, there's some interesting things about SaaS. You know, you kind of like know that there's like this potential sleep at the wheel kind of deal that happens with SaaS, and you know, it's an interesting, because this is, to be honest with you, people want to be able to buy things in a monthly subscription. That's just how they want to buy it. But you know that some of your customers are going to fall asleep at the wheel. So you know what we do is we make it super easy for people to cancel. 30-day money back guarantee. Honestly, like we have a policy that's called SpyFu, not dicks. So like even if you call us 36 days, it's fine, whatever. Cancel. I don't really want people's asleep at the wheel money.
Right.
Really. I want to create value in the world, and that's the whole purpose. That's why we keep our prices low and all that crap. I see that there are wildly successful companies. SpyFu, we have essentially adding in an incremental customer is like, you know, probably costs us like, you know, $1 near zero, right?
Right.
So our margin on an incremental customer is pretty high. And I know that a lot of SaaS companies are like, there's some that have fixed costs, but I've noticed that like the most successful, the biggest high dollar, the ones that you want to buy as a stock very frequently are very contract and sales driven, right?
Like HubSpot is a good example.
I didn't want to mention HubSpot because I love those guys, and I'm gonna, you know. But yes, like I almost engaged with Dharmesh the other day, you know, because they're talking about how they want to make it easy for people to make the sale, and I'm like, you know, like they're trying to take the
Talk to your salespeople.
They're trying to take the no, they want to make it so that people can sign the contract easily, and I'm like,
take the contract out.
I know, man. I'm like, come on, just like, can we just get rid of the contract? Because like
that was my first
100% of the reason
like,
I will never. I love HubSpot. I go to their conference. I think they're a great company, great culture. Everything's great about them. But I would and will never consider buying their product because I don't think that the contract thing is cool. And I personally don't want to get locked into it, and I hate it when they do it, and there's no reason for it.
Yeah, as a customer of theirs, like I was just blown away by their contract and how draconian it is. Like it's first of all, it's a 2-year contract with auto renewal unless you give them a cancellation notice in writing within, like a 15-day period that can't start more than 60 days before the contract ends or something to that effect. And that can't be more than 45 days. It's like you have this 2-week window to cancel almost 2 years from now.
Yeah.
And the auto renewal goes back up to the normal price.
Mm-hmm.
So they're well known for heavy discounting. So like in our case, I think our contract was discounted by like 80% or something like that. So the renewal would have been at 5 times the rate if we just coasted and did nothing.
Yeah.
So like literally I had to set up bells and whistles and alarms.
I know.
And,
I guess we're in the business of calling people out now, but I'm a customer of Intercom.
But I bet
Intercom
they're
didn't
probably
start
similar. So
I spend a few $1,000s a month with them. And there's like one product that we wanted to try, one of their whole thing that we wanted to try out, and then we never used it. So I was like, well, just take this off my account, and we'll, I'm sure that I'm going to wind up
spending more anyway,
right? But the guy, it's like this whole negotiation process. Oh, you can't remove it during, except for in this tiny window. I'm like, what in the mother? I mean, like if I could have, the damn thing is integrated into everything. But if I would cancel, right then and there, just on this one thing. But and so I spend, I never, when I signed up for them, they didn't have these contracts, right? But like companies that do that, I don't know. I think it's like a deal with the devil to some degree. That's what you're supposed to do. This is in SaaS, become sales driven, become contract driven. When you're talking about being sales driven, you're talking about, let's be clear, when you're talking about becoming sales driven, you're talking about becoming contract driven.
Right.
And that's the path to success. And I'm mildly offended by it.
For an enterprise sales.
For anything.
Yeah. No, I mean
it's what's enterprise? $100 a month, Yeah. $200 a month. At what point does it become enterprise? Because that's what.
But
that's what these guys are.
Basically, making it very difficult to leave is
annual contracts where It's
fascinating.
Built into products that, by the way, have built-in low churn rates. Look, you're HubSpot. You have a 3% annual churn or a 5% annual churn anyway. You're just trying to get to negative churn. Great. And so now you have $1 billion ARR. Cool. But where's the value creation?
Yeah. It's
Not that they don't create value. It's a great company.
But they are creating a great product, but there are some interesting dilemmas that entrepreneurs do have to face with respect to these type of things, and that's not necessarily easy, or most people are not well equipped because we haven't had to deal with those kind of questions in the past, right? Once the issue comes up, that's the first time you're thinking about it, and then one path means a lot more dollars and resources for your company. The other path means potentially a lot less dollars and resources for your company to build out and meet its objectives.
And customers, I have customers. It's interesting because I feel like the behavior of some people in our community affects the rest of us, right? So SpyFu, it's like, dude, seriously. You can cancel. I swear. Anyway, tweet us, send us a letter. You can do it in the site. You don't even have to, you can just say, hey, Mike, I'm on your live stream thing. Can you cancel my account? I'll be like,
Somebody's
yes.
gonna
Edit that out.
It will totally happen. I swear. Text me. It's fine. I don't mind.
We just got like 10 requests. To cancel.
But I have customers that, that contact support. They're like, hey, can I see, the terms of your contract? And it's like, look, there's really just like nothing. There's not a contract.
That's funny.
Like, even if, what about for an annual? No, you can still cancel and we'll prorate it back to you. It's all good. So it creates these objections in our pipeline, right? By virtue of nothing. We have to over exert ourselves to be like, no, you can cancel because we're not dicks.
Okay.
Wait, I have a question.
Go for it.
So, would you only lease month to month?
No, that's a good question.
Lease what?
Lease an apartment.
Oh.
Like contracts and other aspects of life.
I think that it's reasonable to have contracts where you have. Yeah, that's a good point because people are in business are kind of accustomed to it, but in software it's just not necessary because the change in the cost of actually acquiring one of those customers is nothing. So it's just kind of like you're putting in a contract just to kind of.
But to that like leasing example in real life, or like you lease an apartment or a house or whatever. I mean, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing annual contracts, right? I mean, but it's the cancellation part of the annual contract that is, or the auto renewal aspect of it at a higher rate. In HubSpot's case, as much as like 5 times as much. I mean, those are the aspects of it that are draconian. Your rent can't be like, oh, we rented you this apartment for $1,000 a month. If you do nothing between, 10 months and 11 months from now, that during that 30-day window, your $1,000 a month rent is going to become $4,000 a month, and you're stuck for the next year. Right?
Yeah.
Like nobody does that in like leases and things.
And it's also these sort of digital contracts. It's like by signing up, you're signing up, and then you can only cancel within this 5-day window. So it's like this leveraging of the EULA, if you will. It's like check this checkbox, and by virtue of that, you're completely screwed for the rest of your life. And not necessarily completely screwed, but it's like you go and you lease a tangible good or whatever. It's at our data center, right? I have a data center still, because
Why not?
Yeah, whatever. So that's a case where we have like these annual contracts, and it's not like I'm averse to the annual contract as a general rule. It's just that in software you have so many there's so many tools that we want to get,
right?
And it's like the language of these digital contracts and how, I don't know, I feel like the sales-driven entities just kind of exploit that. And the bad part about it is that you go to like SaaStr and you go to like we talk to people that are successful, and the pattern is, you can only become a $10 million or $20 million ARR company by being self-service. If you want to get past that scale, you must become sales-driven, and by that I mean like lock people into like draconian contracts. Not necessarily only that, but that's kind of the wisdom, isn't it? I mean,
but that's the standard operating procedure if you want to become a $100 million SaaS company, essentially.
I think so.
I want to move to another topic because a lot of entrepreneurs, their initial drive is either sort of like financially motivated or because they lost their job or whatever. But like this trend of making money off of bets, right? Like I was talking to Howard Lindzen, who is like the Wall Street bets. These guys have figured out that Wall Street is a lot like making bets, right? Like, and if you do it in groups, you can. Like the millennials are figuring out sort of this bet-making business, and now people are making bets on various different things and then trying to do it as a collection, right, of people. Dogecoin is a perfect example that's happening like right now, where like it's basically nothing that has value that now has like 5 times as much value as it did just a few days ago. So there's people making real money off of these things. And I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts, and how's that like changing the notion of work hard or like build something great in order to sort of make money versus just, like get lucky with some of these type of investments? Do you guys think about that at all, or?
Well, I feel like it's a bit of a facade. Let's work together to get this price to go up or this price to go down, because when it comes to an individual and their money, they're not really about working collectively. It may look like it on Wall Street Bets, on Reddit, and today is Doge Day, right? Trying to get it to $1,
right?
Is that it today? And it's not going so well. Last time I looked,
I don't know what the price is right now, but I doubt it.
But that's what. And I was looking at it this morning. I think it was 39 cents. And I was just cracking up because I'm like, you can't manipulate the markets as much as you think you can, because of that individualistic, and I actually kind of have to look out for myself feeling, because it's my money and my family and my things and my future and all of that. So even though it looks like we're all kind of acting together in this, I don't know if it's really happening. That's why I feel like it's a bit of a facade that's going on.
Do you know of anybody that's doing these things?
No.
Okay, so I don't think that they're betting like they're like a meaning. I think that they're like throwing in $20, $50.
Oh.
Yeah, so I believe that.
Smaller amounts.
And they do it because they just want to be part of the stick it to the man thing.
Oh.
And so that's how the collectivist, because it's not like they're, if they win big, they're going to make $2,000, but if they lose, they're going to lose, $20 or whatever. I think that's the. I don't know. My sample size is,
Small.
Yeah.
But we talked
That
about
would
this
make sense.
before, where the value of anything is because humans have put value on it.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily inherently have value. And this is an example of that.
Certainly, in the case of cryptocurrency, that's true. Or monetary systems, stores of value like gold or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like I don't know if that's true for like companies, right? Companies are creating a product. They're generating revenue, profits, et cetera. So there's some value there, right? So there, at some point, if you get the price of a company that's generating so much profits below its profits or below its cash level, the company can start buying its own shares outright, right? So there's sort of a floor, if you will, for a company that it shouldn't go below. That it doesn't make sense for it to go below. Whereas there is no floor in the case of cryptocurrencies, for example.
But with regard to cryptocurrencies versus stocks, I know that you own part of the company when you own a stock, but people generally don't buy a stock because they want to be an owner of that company.
Yeah.
They want to make money.
That's right.
That's why they're buying the stock. And the only reason that stock is going to go up is because
more people.
Yes, more people feel strongly about the future of that business.
Yeah.
So it's really the market is creating the value of it, not so much the business. And we've seen this in downturns.
Yeah.
Where great companies go all the way down with all the other businesses, and they haven't changed. So in that regard, that whole supply and demand and people creating value, I'm not sure that's much different between cryptos and stocks.
Yeah, which brings me to like short selling, which is
Oh boy, here we go. Buckled up. 5-point harness.
Hold on. Let me actually try to swallow my water.
because I have a very different view than Mike does on short selling in particular, right? So my view is that short selling is creating artificial supply that doesn't exist. Our short selling mechanisms of measuring how many shares short are out there. Like literally, you only get one data point every 2 weeks on that, and it's 2 weeks old, so you can't even tell whether or not a particular stock movement today or yesterday or the day before the last 10 days have been because of short sellers. You just can't get that information. So it's
why is that
hard
information important to you? Why do you feel entitled to that information?
Because it's a creation of artificial supply that doesn't exist. I mean, if it was your company that someone was selling the stock in, whose stock is crashing as a result of someone selling the stock that doesn't exist again, or technically borrowing, but we know that the borrowing measures are not foolproof because the same shares have been sold multiple times in the case of GameStop, which is what created that fiasco. In GameStop's case, there was 140% of the shares outstanding that was sold short. Technically, every share that's sold short is supposed to have an actual owner that it's being borrowed from. So in theory, you shouldn't be able to get more than 20, 30, 40% maybe if you get that high. So like shares were being shorted 3-4 times per one that was being borrowed to be shorted. So the system is definitely like not in place to be able to even account for it accurately. But fundamentally, it's creating artificial supply that doesn't exist, right? And that affects the company's ability to be able to raise money or do things, and it creates a huge incentive for the naysayers of people who think that the company is not going to do well to actually promote these crazy ideas for the short seller mentality to persist and for the stock to actually go to zero because of the creation of a false narrative that doesn't exist.
Okay, so
that's my argument.
Let's
for
just
it.
make a concretize this, right? Because sometimes
Yeah.
it's like they're like financial instruments or whatever. So let's pretend that Apple says we think that the Apple brand is so strong that we can put out a monitor that we can sell for $100,000. Meanwhile, they're like, Hamid, would you like to review it on your podcast? Here it is.
Okay.
Right? And then you're like, this thing's like kind of a piece of shit. Right? But you're like, I have it. So you list it on eBay for $100,000. And some Mac boys buy it. And you're like, yes. And because you know that as soon as this thing releases, that it's going to be like a $1,000 monitor and you're going to pocket $99,000, right? And so you selling it, maybe you don't get $100,000 because really they're like Apple's selling it for $100,000 and you're just Hamid, and so you're like, I'll list it for like $90,000 because great, and then everybody else that gets a copy of the dang thing is like, I'm gonna sell this goddamn monitor because it's a piece of shit, and so the price on eBay keeps going down, not $100,000, not $90,000, not like $80,000. Maybe the price winds up being that you can sell your monitor. Well, you sold it for 80, but the next guy sells it for 50, right?
Okay.
And so you're basically driving the price of that monitor down, eventually reaching the real value of the monitor, right? And so that's good. That's a good effect, right, for the market because the monitor doesn't have a real value of $100,000 because it's a piece of shit. And
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that if you have short, and that's literally what short selling is. You borrowed it and sold it with the expectation that you're going to because you're going to return it to Apple eventually. They loaned it to you, but you know that later,
Right.
when people discover the real value of that monitor, you're going to be able to buy it for $1,000, $2,000, $10,000 for you. It's
That's
fine.
the idea behind short selling. Is
Yeah.
that like you're sort of essentially making a wager that the price of this thing is going to go down eventually.
When you see that something that is currently has a price is realistically, if you think it's going to go down,
Right.
and you think that the real value of it is lower, by borrowing it and then selling it in the open market, you're driving that price back closer to what should be the real market value.
Right.
Now, other people can be like, if you're selling that monitor, that $100,000 monitor for like $50. People are going to buy that monitor from you all day long, thereby driving that price back up. So
Right.
the short selling and long buying is going to find the better price on eBay for that monitor.
Right. But technically, like that monitor in a physical object world or example, that monitor cannot be sold more than once.
No, it could. Somebody bought it from you for $90,000.
Right. But they have to wait to receive the monitor, right, before they can sell it again.
Yeah.
And this is where the systems are sort of like because of the settlement time frames and all this stuff that happens in stock. But even if you just didn't allow for that, like what is the downside of that? Basically, the stock price being too high for some period of time until people who hold the stock decide, you know what, this company is not worth what the current price of it, and I'm going to sell, right?
Well, it'd be more fluctuations, more drops, right? So it'd be a wilder market.
I think it's wilder because of short sellers, though. Like, I totally see it being much wilder because of the lows are lower than they should be, the highs are higher than they should be, both because of short sellers. The lows are lower than they should be because short sellers are oversupplying the market, and the highs are higher than they should be because the short sellers have to cover. In the case of like Tesla, it just like skyrocketed, and so much of that was driven by short sellers covering their positions, right?
Yeah, but it's better in general. I mean, the
same thing with GameStop.
The Tesla thing is an interesting one, but because they were wrong and whatever. And GameStop, I mean, arguably they're correct. The thing is that
who's correct?
The short sellers.
I mean, maybe they're correct.
Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I don't know. I think that it was a popular opinion. And that I also shared at the time, and so therefore I declare it to be correct. Bets are bets. Bets are valuable. Bets are better than opinions, right? Bets are people placing their money one way or another, and that's what's cool about that's what's a good signal about bets. It's like why you got like the political betting markets are more accurate than, for example, pundits.
Right.
Because people are actually, even though it's a relatively small amount of money, they're betting their money on the outcome of a political race, and they're betting the long side and the short side. And so with both sides being represented, you can get closer to the truth than if you have only one side or if you don't have money involved. So and the markets love this sort of efficiency, right? Like if there's something that's being sold for $100,000 and it's worth $1,000, the market despises that. It just hates it, right? Like efficiency and economic theory despises that gap in value, and so so I think my view is that short selling is a necessary. I don't think it's necessarily evil. It's just it's not my nature. Every investor has to find their pattern.
Right.
You want to talk about Archimoto? I can tell you why I would short sell it if I were a short seller, why I think that those guys are right.
I mean, there's two separate arguments. One is like whether or not short selling should be legal, and then on a particular stock we can decide. And we can shift the argument to Archimoto, which is this company that I'm sort of bullish about. But
I want to know why you're bullish.
Yeah. So, like, my view on it is that they can get to the 50,000 units per year. So, just a quick background: Archimoto is they're making EVs, three-wheeled EVs. They're similar to motorcycles with a little cabin, right? Two-person motorcycles with a cabin that are EV based. And the question is, how many of these can they make? I mean, this company is in its relative infancy. They've proven out the product, but now they need to actually scale it, right? Mm-hmm. They have thousands of back orders that they just simply can't fill because they don't have the manufacturing capacity to do it. And now
what do those back orders look like?
What do you mean?
Okay, so here's my main skepticism of this company.
Okay.
It's not about the EV thing. I'm all in. I love this.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is like the type of. Frankly, I happen to live across the park. Right. Like it's an ideal vehicle for my daily commute. But and maybe do you own one?
Do I own an Archimoto? No, not yet.
Are you going to buy one?
Yeah.
And in what way will you use it?
I shouldn't say yes so casually. Like I might buy one. I mean, it's a two-person vehicle. If it was four-person, it would probably be a little bit more convenient for me.
Yeah, like a golf cart.
Yeah,
for
like a golf cart. Yeah.
I think that's their main competition. Here's the thrust of my thing. But I think that a front-back vehicle.
I'm not their target audience. Just
I don't
to be clear.
think that they have a target audience, and that's why I think that they don't have. I think that vehicle format is what I would bet against.
Okay.
I don't think that there's going to be a front-back or a single-person vehicle. And particularly the three-wheeled vehicle thing, it just is. We've tried it a million times. If you take that, there's a lot of skepticism about the three-wheel. If you back it up, it'll roll. Blah blah blah. But it's also a single-person vehicle or a front and back. People want side to side. It's just a format that isn't that is proven. It's not like that's never been done before.
Right.
Lots of people have done that format of a vehicle, and it's not something that you see driving around.
Oh, I got you.
So fundamentally,
your question is like, why isn't there a successful version of this that's gas powered?
Yeah. and they're it exists,
Right.
but nobody wants to buy it. You're either going to buy a motorcycle or you're not going to buy a motorcycle, but you're not going to buy a weird 3-wheeled. I mean, yeah, you see people doing it. It's old people that can't ride a motorcycle.
Okay.
And that's what I think of when I see somebody riding. You couldn't figure out how to ride a motorcycle.
I can see that argument. I can see that argument. But I think one of the things that's changing, quite rapidly, especially in the past year, is this sort of delivery market, right? Like, delivery markets basically came to life in 2020, and a huge portion of that market has been like food delivery in particular. So that vehicle is like the perfect vehicle for a delivery market.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I can see that.
Yeah, 50,000 units, by the way, is like.
I don't know that anybody's going to buy a car just to do DoorDash. They'll probably continue to buy their Priuses or whatever, but that's just my hunch.
Yeah.
My hunch is that the model fails because of that.
That makes sense. I mean, but that would be your reason why you might want to short this company, right? Or think that the company is going down.
I wouldn't short a company, though. I don't really do that.
Okay, so
I don't have the personality for it.
Yeah.
I'll probably buy a few of them just to I'll pitch in my $20 to hope that your investment works. I'm a social person. We can all celebrate.
I bought this stock. Yes.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, like, I'm not. I haven't invested a huge amount in Arcimoto. I'm an Arcimoto bull, if you will. Largely because I think the format will work, and it being EV, I think the combination of those two things are pretty cool. All right, let's move on to other topics. What else do you guys want to talk about?
Crypto on Venmo today.
Crypto on Venmo. Venmo introduced crypto?
Venmo introduced crypto. I think that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Does it? I mean, maybe everybody knows about Cash App, but I think Venmo's like.
So you can basically buy anything that you can buy normally through Venmo.
I haven't done it, but like that's the news release. Basically, you can buy and sell and trade Litecoin, Bitcoin, and Ethereum.
That's a big deal.
I think so.
That's a really
it feels
big
like
deal.
that's a mass market. That's like PayPal.
That's a legitimizer.
As a transactional thing, not just a store of value.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Exactly.
like because and Litecoin too. By the way, I have my crypto strategy is like really freaking lame, but but it involves Litecoin.
You own Bitcoin, Litecoin, and a little bit of Doge.
Your $20.
No Doge. I have no Doge. I don't have that skill, to be honest with you. Have you brought Brad Robertson on here yet?
No, not yet.
Because you gotta get in the NFT game or something. I don't even know. He's so deep on this. He's you should just ask him. Hey, if you had just ask him this for me. Hey, so let's say you had $10,000 to put into.
Would he be all over NFT?
No. Just hey, just what would you put it in?
Leave it at that.
That's right? It. Yeah. Because I think that he would have an opinion on that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be NFT though?
Oh,
or
no.
like some kind, an NFT.
I don't think you can. I don't know. Dude, I don't even know. But what I know is it would be like something that's not on my radar whatsoever.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Yeah, it would be something that I've never heard of, and I don't even want to say it would be like DeFi. I don't even know DeFi, but that
what is
seems
DeFi?
like I don't know. I have no idea, dude.
Just gonna say
I'm
random
not an
things
expert whatsoever. You've heard of DeFi though, right?
I've heard it, but I have no idea. I mean, like around the same time I started hearing NFT, which I think I kind of get what NFT is, but
I know more about NFT than I know about DeFi. But what would Brad say to put your money in? I don't know.
Okay,
DeFi?
What would Brad do?
Actually,
That's the
Mike,
question.
why don't you explain what NFT is? Because I think I have an idea of what NFT is, but I'm kind of curious your perspective on it is.
And there's been some recent news
Christ.
about NFT.
You want me to? Okay. I mean, I'm probably wrong. It's called non-fungible token, which means it is not fungible.
What does fungible mean in this case?
What?
Like copyable?
Yeah, I guess it means you don't. It is unique.
Unique,
right?
okay.
So like Bitcoin, one Bitcoin is the same as another Bitcoin, relatively speaking, but one NFT is not the same as another one. So you have like this one that is essentially tied to an image that you sold or whatever, right?
Right.
But
okay, so explain to me this: like when people are selling NFTs of digital artwork, like Jack's first tweet or whatever, like what exactly is the buyer buying?
Yeah, I don't really get that. But okay, well, so the thing is that it's a link, like the images that when you're buying like an image, for
Right.
example, it ends up being a link to a file.
Okay.
Right? And that's actually stored along with in the chain.
In the blockchain.
So the weird
so
thing
that
is that
particular
you're actually kind of paying for hosting in a weird way, because if the host goes out, you're kind of effed, right?
Well, isn't it eventually like registered on the Ethereum blockchain or something, or is it Bitcoin blockchain?
Whoever sells you that NFT, right? Whoever issues the NFT is required to host the image if the image goes away, or if they replace it, or if the entity that
I thought
sold
you
it
get the image, and the way that you know it's an authentic image is that it's on the blockchain, so you could verify it easily. Anybody could verify it. Is that not the case? You don't know.
Yeah, my understanding is that it's a hosted file, and that's what is essentially the hash and all that stuff. But
That's what makes it authentic.
mhm, it's a bit of an issue. They're trying to figure out ways to basically store the image itself in some kind of a protocol.
Yeah.
That is like sort of stores it in the URL.
But
if you
let's
will.
say like the image
image.
was being stored appropriately and is on the blockchain as this is the authentic version of Jack's tweet. Why is that tweet worth like I don't
Anything?
understand, because like anyone can have access to that tweet. You know what I mean? Like an image that's not the authentic version of it. The good thing about digital
Potentially you could charge for
is like
licensing.
exactly the same.
Like let's say that you could buy. Okay, so Jack's tweet, whatever. But let's say that you could what if you could get the NFT for the Super Bowl logo, right? If you own that logo, then you could charge people, to use it, I suppose.
Is it that much different than baseball cards, for example, as far as why there's value in it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I have a Max IV Pokemon.
Yeah.
And it's a 1500 level, so it works real well in the Great League.
So, you want to play Pokemon Go after this? I have some time. Do you want to? No, seriously. Like, what makes a baseball card valuable? It's because other people also want it.
Well, yeah, but okay, so the issue with digital work, and this is why I'm like a laggard in adoption of these things, right?
Yeah.
Like I was not pro Bitcoin in 2012 or 2010 when it first came out. But from my perspective, digital works like that. Like the copy is just as good as the original, right? Like what is the point of having the original, I guess, is what I don't understand. There is, like, the copy is literally digitally identical to the original, except for the blockchain not recording who the owner is, which,
Well, what would be the point in owning any digital artwork?
Digital artwork, yeah, that would be my argument, essentially, is that what's the point of owning any digital?
To say that you own the original.
Well, I mean, let's say that my picture is of Bob going like this.
Yeah.
And then I sell it as like what's that stuff called? Like office. It's a word for like it's like clip art, but it's not clip art. It's
stock photos.
Stock photos. Thank you. Yeah. So I sell it as a stock photo, for like 25 cents or something.
Oh,
$25.
Yeah,
Let's say $25.
Yeah. Like it's like a $200, and you can use it on your website.
Right.
So I own the original.
Yes.
I can charge other people, for his likeness and all this stuff.
Yeah, but you don't need NFT for that.
But the ownership then is
The only reason you need an NFT is if you're going to guarantee that you're only going to sell one copy of that, right? Like that's
that means that
or maybe
the
10 copies
copyright
or
owner.
whatever. Like you limit the number of copies that you're going to sell, and that's what makes that particular picture of Bob valuable.
All it means is you own the original, because it's super easy to make copies and there's no way to control it in today's world.
Right.
Yeah.
All it means is that you own the original.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the buyer, or one of X number. We should do that. We should pick a selfie. We should sell Bob's picture.
Do I get a cut?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what we can sell it for. I mean,
one of the reasons that I thought that NFTs were cool is that it is money direct to the artist, and that aspect of it is pretty cool, because if you are a photographer or and like right now photography or any kind of art creator, if it's digital, you didn't have a great way of sort of protecting your work or selling it in a similar fashion that regular artists had on canvas, right? Whereas NFT sort of facilitates that to some degree.
yeah, and so I think that, and I don't really know, because it's been a while since I talked to Brad about what they're doing. The game, the thing that his company is called is Polyant Games, right?
Yeah.
And so so one of the use cases, and I'm not actually even sure if they named it Polyant Games because they actually intended to do anything with gaming, or if they just wanted to be like super stealth and have, right?
Throw them off.
Yeah, it's like you guys have no idea what we're doing. But I think that there's like in-game assets that you can kind of like take with you to some degree, right? So if you imagine yourself farming gold, if you will, in like World of Warcraft, hypothetically, you could take your gold.
NFTs of gold.
And it has value outside the game.
It could literally,
That's interesting.
or you could take your character with you. That type of thing is, and we don't really see it right now, right? Like we don't know actually how that can be used, because it's just,
We're moving more and more into this.
Well, I mean, the people will probably build things, and also how many video games do you really? How much are you playing?
Have you guys heard of any other kind of more widespread or mainstream use of blockchain outside of, cryptos and NFT?
Not really. It seemed like every use of blockchain was like stupid for like. I don't know. It's a couple of years ago. It seemed like it was the rage.
It was the rage, yeah. I was trying to find the sort of alpha on that stuff. I spent quite a bit of time trying to become like an expert on those things, in 2017, but I failed.
Essentially,
I
it
did
makes
not
a
find
lot.
anything good.
It makes a lot of sense for Bitcoin. Blockchain does, and it was invention for Bitcoin specifically. But then, like outside of that, it seems like it would be too expensive. The reason the blockchain is so freaking expensive to operate on Bitcoin is because of the proof of work part. So if you could easily spoof the proof of work, then then the blockchain is completely useless. So you can't really have a blockchain that's only a few hundred or a few thousand nodes or very little computational power. And if you have one that's as secure and safe as Bitcoin is, then it's like so freaking expensive to operate.
Well, because of that lack of scalability and the time issue,
Yeah.
if you're using Bitcoin, do you think that's going to hamper its widespread use over time?
No, I think it's a feature, not a bug. So I think so I've become very much a Bitcoin supporter now and believer. And the more I learn about it is that, okay, it can't support large numbers of transactions. So things have to be layered on top of Bitcoin in order to support high numbers of transactions. And those layers are already coming about. They already exist. They're starting to get traction. And those layers could literally be Visa, MasterCard, right? Like just as they are today. But Bitcoin is going to be the sort of backing behind money, fundamentally. If you fast forward, I don't know, a couple dozen years maybe sooner. Who knows? it seems like the backing behind money used to be gold, and that went away, and now as various different countries get into trouble with their currencies, the only alternative backing behind their money, what people convert their money into in those countries, is Bitcoin. I was actually surprised to learn that like the countries you would expect that would be top on the mining of Bitcoin are like so random. U.S. is like number 2, first of all, after China. But then after that, it's hard to even know. Here, I'll look them up real quick.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you know, we live in America, and you know, one of the gold standards, if you will, you know, currencies is the U.S. dollar, and you know, so we're perfectly comfortable with the U.S. dollar being, you know, the standard that we use. But if we were like, you know, not in America, and we actually potentially disliked America, then I would be, you know, it'd be pretty uncomfortable to be like, well, I have all my assets in U.S. dollars. Meanwhile, I dislike America. or like if, you know, I don't know, even I don't have any particular animosity towards China, for example, or you know, or but let's say that that was the gold standard. I'd be like, well, I'd maybe a neutral entity, you know, would be better than using a currency.
Yeah.
So
I think it'll actually be a slightly better world.
check out this this graph of Bitcoin mining by country. It's like China, United States, then Russia, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, then Iran, and then falls significantly after Iran to Canada, Germany, Norway, Venezuela. How crazy is that, right? Like, it has gotten worldwide adoption, which is pretty phenomenal.
What's the pattern?
Of
There. What's the pattern in terms of like who's adopting it or who's mining it? Actually, I would imagine that it's got to be like, you know, that cheap energy makes the most sense, or where certain people have control over the energy. But that would just be my hypothesis. I have no basis for that. That's just my initial thought is if you have control over the power and it's cheap, then it's profitable to mine.
It's interesting how far China is ahead of everybody else.
yeah, it's like 65%.
Does that make you nervous?
Well, I think they don't collectively control it, though. Like,
Right.
It would be interesting to sort of dive into the details of that.
They manufacture the miners, right? So this is the tricky little clever thing that I never bought any miners, but there was like that period in 2017 where pretty much everybody that I knew was buying miners, right?
Yeah.
Like I think Chase bought some miners. I literally have one of my employees bought some miners, and so there's just a bunch of ant miners sitting in my office that
Really?
aren't in use. Yeah.
You don't want to plug them in and see what happens?
Well, no, it's not profitable to mine, and here's why. What happens is when you buy a miner, it's clever. You pay in advance, so basically, if you go on like some website, I forget what the name of the website is, but if you type in like, you know, crypto mining fees or whatever, because you basically set these miners up to like download what to work on, you know, because it may not be the most profitable thing may not be Bitcoin based on the processor that you have or whatever. So you basically look this up, and then you're like, okay, based on my electricity cost, here's the amount of profit that I'll make per month with one of these miners. And then the manufacturer will say, here's the specs on the miner that we're going to have. Pre-order them from us. And so if you're lucky, you can pre-order them, right? Because there's a ridiculous amount of demand. And so you're like, cool, I'm a dude in my house. I'm going to spend, $100,000, my life savings on these miners. So you get 20 of them, and it's going to make you, ideally, you're going to wind up making, say, $9,000 a month, $10,000 a month or something. So you're like, this is gonna be sweet. So then the
electric bill comes.
No. They so a couple months go by, and then they're like, all right, we've got your miners are ready. We're just going to test them out. So they set them up in quality control and test out the miners before they send them out, because you wouldn't want somebody to get a crappy miner that would break. So they actually break them all in, and while they're breaking them in, they're making the $400 or $500 a month per miner. And then they take them off, and then they send them to you, and then by the time they reach you, you make like $300 a month, and then you make $300 a month, and then $250, and then $200, and then $150, and then $100, and then $50, and then it's obsolete. And so you either broke even, or you didn't quite break even.
Right.
And that's roughly how that works. Meanwhile, the manufacturer,
made a ton of money,
which is in China, made them. They probably made back their manufacturing cost.
Right.
Yeah, and pocketed the money. So it's a wildly lucrative thing to manufacture the miners.
So that's the business you should be getting into, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, you never want to get into basically the energy business, if you will. I mean, mining is obviously going to be goes to zero.
If you sold your company, Mike, what would you be doing?
Oh, I don't know, man. That's a good one. I would probably spend more time trying to maximize my lifestyle.
What does that even mean? Maximize my lifestyle?
I don't know. Like in the summer, I surf a lot, right? And that's my deal. I do it every day. And I like that rhythm. It's the best rhythm that I have in my year, in my life. So like I surf 3 hours a day, and then the whole day is kind of scheduled around this to some degree. And I do it every day, and I'm like in like really ridiculously like elite shape at some point at the end of the summer, and then in the winter, I go snowboarding, and that's a pretty good rhythm. I don't know, but there's like a whole portion of my year where I don't have like a perfect sort of routine that's like ideal, and so I would spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. I'd probably also be like I'd try to be like a better social. People like text me, right? People text me. People text me. But do I ever text other people? No, because I'm a bad person.
Okay, so what's your perfect day? So you're not. Let's take work out of it. You're surfing for 3 hours a day. What does the rest of the day look like?
Well, when I'm in Oceanside, I hang out with my family. So I like wake up, like make some breakfast, make some coffee, have some breakfast. Oh, when the kids are there in the summer, I like make them do like random tasks. Like learn some math or some shit, right? Like I like, yeah. But then I'll help them because I make it really hard, yeah. So that they wind up needing some help. And then we like go grab some lunch, and then we walk wherever we need to go, or I skateboard someplace, and then I come back, and then usually go down to the beach with the kids and do some random things, maybe build something, dig something. I dig something. Spend a lot of time digging actually at the beach, like a lot, like several hours a day sometimes, yeah. Digging. And then teach the kids to surf, then go surf myself, and then come back and play a particular song while standing and trying to like balance on like my rail and drinking a beer. And then I go, it's a ritual. And then I go inside, and then I have a shower beer, and then like dinner gets made, or somehow we go to dinner, and then I don't know, and then.
So if you sold your company, this is the kind of stuff you'd be doing. All the
this
time.
Is leisure, yeah. Well, I mean,
This is what he does right now.
This is what he does right now.
This would be like what? So
you would
when
be
I'm
maximizing this.
Probably, I'd maximize a ritual like that. But I mean, keep in mind, there's a considerable amount of time that I spend surfing.
So you wouldn't be trying to like solve some other problem for humanity?
Of course I would, but I would try to not. Yeah. Okay. So, like the parameters for my next business are that it needs that if I'm going to start another thing, it has to be the unit of measurement has to be in lives saved.
Okay.
Right. So that's that would be my North Star metric. So I'd probably do something in healthcare or like somehow death prevention or something like that. Not necessarily.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's
a great metric.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I could also see myself potentially like in making some kind of like an electric surfboard, right? Kind of deal, like that's like and then
that would be lives cost,
and then breaking.
How many people
even.
died from that?
yeah, that'd be fine.
Either
too.
lives saved or lives killed.
Yeah.
Whichever one.
As long as it nets out to the positive.
Yeah. But
you're like the people who are like polluting and planting 3 trees, or it's like cancels each other out.
Yeah. Oh, I like the solar power yacht kind of thing that could be entertaining. Oh, I have an idea. I'll just share it with the whole world because maybe I won't do it now.
Go for it.
All right. So I think that there's this idea. Tell me what you guys think. I like to disrupt like basic things,
Okay.
like toilet paper and that type of stuff.
There's a lot of money in that, by the way. That's why like this Manscaped thing is like a $300 million revenue company, multi-billion dollars, because they freaking disrupted electric shavers. Anyway, continue.
We have dishwashers.
Okay.
You guys have a dishwasher?
Yep.
I have a dishwasher. The thing about dishwashers is that like the direction that you want to take a dishwasher is to make it quieter and more efficient or whatever, so that it doesn't disrupt your life. You can put things in there and like leave and it doesn't like annoy you, right? The thing is that it takes like 2 hours to wash something, but if you're in like a restaurant, and one of my first jobs was as a dishwasher.
Okay.
You take your dishes and you put them in a thing and it washes them in like 90 seconds, and like if you could just do that on your like in your kitchen, you wouldn't prepare them at all. You just basically like stick something in this tray, shove it into this thing, and then it goes and then you pull it out and you're like, it's still dirty, but it probably wouldn't be because the damn shit works. It's proven technology, but for some reason we like use crappy things and wait 2 hours and then are like, oh, it's still got a spot on it. Or you build this whole like process around it. It's like, or you just like wash it off in the sink. It's like, here's my knife. I actually care about the knife, so I have to hand wash it because I'm not going to put the damn thing in it. Right? Like your knives.
Yeah.
Right? But you could just stick it in a thing and be like, knife. That's actually how things should work.
This is your business idea.
Okay, it could be. I've got a few of them. But
it's a good one.
Right?
But I
not
guess
really measured in lives saved, though, is it?
I'm missing the business. Would it be the dishwasher business?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. You'd make a better dishwasher, is what you're saying.
But it's like dramatically better. It's a 2-minute dishwasher instead of a 2-hour dishwasher.
And it fits in the same sort of dishwasher hole and uses the same.
My go-to-market strategy is probably not putting it in the same dishwasher hole because I think that that people won't get it right away. I think that I would go with like the more like countertop, sort of like how people are getting like countertop ice makers.
Yeah, kind of a.
So I'd just be like, here, and you could buy the upgraded version that'll fit in a drawer or whatever. Or however you want. I don't think you need the full space.
Right.
Like, because if you're washing, like, okay, I'm going to put this dish away in like 3 seconds. The whole loading up a whole thing and doing it in a batch is stupid. It's like, you don't need to do that. You just wash it when you're done with it. It takes like 2 minutes.
And then you can have a version that does not use water.
You literally don't even need as many dishes.
Is this enticing you to get in business with it?
I'm taking notes.
Because Bob's looking for his next thing, right? What's your next thing going to be?
So I've just come to the conclusion I'm an entrepreneur.
Besides the Uber driver thing, right?
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, what I was thinking I would do is nothing for a while.
Yeah.
Nothing means reading a lot, studying a lot, exercising a lot, like just doing the things
Yeah.
I like to do, maximizing the things I like to do.
Maximizing your lifestyle.
It's gonna be my new thing.
I don't know if I'm capable of just doing that, because I'll read and I'll get excited about something. It'll spur some thought, and I'll go off on a tangent and write all this information about this thought, which is always a business idea.
Yeah.
So I can't control myself.
What would be your advice to someone who can't control themselves but hasn't had a success yet to your level? Like they want to get things off the ground. Like what would be? What would you tell them?
Well, focus. Like
Yeah.
that's a big problem with entrepreneurs, and I think a lot of new entrepreneurs fall into that. I did. Started AppointmentPlus, and like 2 years later, hey, here's this other idea. Oh, what's that?
Yeah.
Then spent time on that, and I did it a couple times, throughout the life of the company, and every time I regretted it. A single business idea takes, except for Elon Musk, a single business idea takes all of your time and energy.
Yeah.
If you want to try to do it right, I don't know how you can do 2 or 3 things all at the same time. That's why I kind of chuckle at Elon Musk. I don't know how you do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I would be spread way too thin.
Even
He's a
within the
unique
same business,
character.
right? Like,
Yeah.
isn't that the kind of core truth? Is that you generally want to focus on like those core,
Yeah.
the core aspects of the business
Yeah.
or the product that make it good.
Yeah.
And it's quite tricky because even though like I generally don't do like the dishwasher ideas. Oh, I should tell you about I've told you about my dog poop.
Do you have another idea?
Oh, it's a good one. It's a robot.
What is it?
Yeah, it's a dog poop robot.
Yeah?
It's amazing.
What was that? Was it an Adam Sandler movie where like one of them had like him or his buddy had invented this spray for like poop, and he sprayed it on poop and it would just disappear. It's like, where's all this poop?
Yeah.
So he'd become like, I think it was his friend who was an asshole who like, anyway.
Oh, I haven't seen this movie, but I thought I'd seen all the ads. I probably have seen it. I'm getting old and unable to remember movies. I've
So
seen
your idea is a dog robot that like follows your dog.
We should have a whole episode where all we do is just come up with business ideas,
Crazy ass ideas.
Oh, I'm probably not gonna do this one. No,
free ideas for the world. Go ahead. Lay them on people.
I feel like the most undignified job that we do, generally,
is picking up poop.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Like it, you can replace almost everything else, but if you have a yard, well, see, I have artificial turf now,
Yeah.
and you do
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
so you may not have this issue. But if you have a dog, they take a dump, and you have to go and pick it up. And it's kind of like, who does that? Well, if you have kids, you can make them do that,
Right,
so that's
right.
good, But like, let's pretend that you don't.
Yeah.
You wind up having to do this task that's like, why am I doing this? Like, I pay people to do
Who's
my
in charge?
landscaping.
Who's in charge here?
But you can't even get landscapers, right? Like, because the dog, it poops constantly,
Every day.
like multiple times a day.
Yeah.
So you can't really enjoy your yard. You're like walking around, you're like, oh, right? And if you step in it, you're just like, you're barefoot, and it's just terrible, right? So it's like and that's like one of the worst and most undignified life experiences.
This
And then second
your
only
quality of
to
happiness.
walking around having to pick this stuff up, right?
Right.
So the base idea is, and imagine like having like a Roomba that drives around and like scoops it up. Oh, that's terrible, right?
Because-
Seems good, but terrible, because then you have to clean the goddamn Roomba. And that's so much worse. Or empty the hopper. So you
that's
can't
bad.
have that. If you
That's
have
bad.
like so ideally what you want is something that roams around your yard and
Bags it.
and gets rid of it.
Okay.
You don't want to like touch that bag after it's been sitting in the sun.
So okay, what is the idea? Like, how does it get rid of it? It
Yeah.
sounds like the movie idea where you just spray something and it just disappears.
Like think of a blender that's upside down, and so it basically just encircles the thing, injects water, blends it up, and then drills a hole into the turf, and then re-rinses it, and so the actual turds get absorbed into the earth. so they're gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
The whole
so
cycle.
so and it fertilizes your yard. You literally never have to do any maintenance except for refill the water. So I think you could make that for about $2,000.
I don't think you could do it for $2,000. There's way too much AI that you would need to go into the poop detection.
AI, you just have to be able to like train it on like it would be funny to source that.
Boston Dynamics' says robot barely walks around, and it's like $75,000, dude. And that's like the pinnacle of robotics technology.
I know,
$75,000
all
for
you
a
need-
fucking like dog that walks
It does
around.
does not have to walk. It's just it's on wheels. Think of it like as a Roomba, but instead of sucking, it has a little tank on top, and then
You could never have that because you have friends that are really good with computers and they reprogram it to come back through the doggy door and drill a hole in your floor.
that would be
And
bad.
insert
Yeah.
it and patch it back.
That would be bad.
My robot
you.
brought all this shit inside.
Oh, but it never brings it with it. It literally doesn't ever
Oh.
suck it up, right? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't take the turd. It only encircles
Processes
it,
it right there.
injects the water, spins it up, and then rinses it essentially down the drain that it drills in the ground. It drains it. It makes its own little hole in your
really
grass.
gross.
Well, in my, what are we supposed to do in our artificial turfs? Because that would
You can't use it. You can't use it. You
What?
can't.
Go back to the drawing board, pal. Like you can't even use it in your own yard.
I can't use it anymore. I
a
used to
little
have grass, and I'd never walk out in my yard because I'm like, not in the dark. Not in the dark.
Yeah.
You're not gonna walk in the yard in the dark,
Landmines.
Man,
dude. No,
Yeah.
no way, no way.
we should probably end it here so that like we don't
We're gonna end on dog poop.
dog poop. It's just getting worse. I keep waiting for an up moment to end it, but like, no, it's just going downhill. This is probably going to be the last episode, guys.
But we're going to the bar after this to continue this conversation because it's so good.
Literally, it's going to be like AZ Tech Beat, the last episode went down with dog shit.
We could celebrate though.
We could
right.
celebrate.
Yeah, we could. We just
right.
celebrate.
Like,
and
last
just be like,
episode, yeah.
Last episode ever. Yeah. Even if it wasn't.
Right.
Celebrate anyway.
I could see just the cancellations coming from guests. Clayton Mask like, no, I think I'm good.
But you got to make it hard to cancel.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You can't
Yeah,
cancel.
you can't-
I'm sorry, you need to call
He has
him.
watched.
Here's a phone number you can call to cancel.
Can't unsubscribe. Sorry. You're gonna
Oh,
see every
man.
episode.
All right. Any other departing thoughts? I'm afraid to ask for.
Yeah, you don't want any.
Well, I've had a great time, and if it was gonna go down in any other way, this may as well be the.
Good way
Thanks,
to go.
guys.
All right.
Awesome. All right, you made it to the end of the episode. I would love to get your feedback, so take a moment to leave a genuine review in your favorite podcast app. That also helps us reach more people. Speaking of reach, if you like a particular episode, be sure to share it with someone who you think would enjoy it. See you next time.
Where do you want me to be? I could be in Bob's lap.
No. Go get comfortable.
This would be really weird for the next hour.